and welcome to the April 2022 Composing Competition live stream. The assignment was this: write an instrumental piece of music up to 90 seconds in length using this photo as inspiration. There were 832 entries in the contest. Today we'll be listening to a small selection of just 16 of them. Our celebrity guest judges will be hearing the tracks for the first time, sharing their first impressions, and rating them on a scale from 1 to 10 on the areas of composition, relevance to the photo, and production value. And at the end of the live stream, we will award prizes to the tracks with the top 3 scores. For first place, they will receive the Liminal Bundle from Lute Audio, access to a course from our very own guest judge, Christopher CU, and the Alpha and Omega VST synthesizers from Bliss. Second place will receive the Classic FX Bundle from Bliss, and the top 3 entries will each win a 3-month full license to musicant.app and will be invited to a Coffee with the Composers event with me and some of the judges to talk about career advice and music and whatever else comes up. So speaking of the judges, I'm going to bring them on. Hey guys. So for those of you who don't know, all 3 of these guys are people who have collaborated with me on the channel over the past year. So it really means a lot to me that you were all able to make it. Thank you for being here. I'm going to introduce you in reverse order of when we first worked together. So Gavin Leeper is a composer inspired by Japanese games and anime, a self-taught jazz musician and Japanese culture aficionado. Gavin is regarded as a YouTube expert on the music theory of Japanese video game music, anime music, and other contemporary Japanese genres. So Gavin and I recently did a video called How to Turn C Major into Anime Harmony, and it's one of the most viewed videos on my channel, so definitely go check that out. That was a really fun one. Next, we have Christopher CU. Chris is a composer, arranger, and fellow YouTuber who has worked with artists such as Tina Guo, Anne Catherine Dern, Stephen Mellon, and Jonathan and Friends. He has a passion for classic Disney and orchestral Nintendo scores and has recently released his debut album, Freedom, available for listening wherever music is consumed. He's dedicated to helping musicians find their voice and produce the music they've always dreamed of. And Chris and I did a kind of a trial run of this event. We did a feedback live stream back in the fall, and we had like 15, 20 submissions maybe. So that was more on par of, I think, kind of what we were expecting this time around. Just a little different. And Mark Richards. Mark Richards of filmmusicnotes.com is a former university professor in music theory who creates online courses in film music theory and composition on his Film Music Notes site. His most recent course is Associations of Harmony in Film Themes, which teaches you the most common harmonic progressions in Hollywood film music, so you can learn to use harmony to evoke the perfect emotions in your themes. And Mark came on my channel when I had, I want to say maybe 100 subscribers, but graciously accepted to have an interview, and we geeked out on the sentence form and John Williams and all that great stuff. So thank you, Mark, for being here, and all 3 of you. So as I said, there were 832 entries, and so much of the music was just so good. So getting it down to 16 was brutal, and I had to leave out a lot of amazing music. So thank you everyone who submitted. So not only was I looking for tracks that really impressed me, I also wanted to make sure there was some variety and that there was some things for the judges to discuss. So please don't take it personally if your track was among the 800 plus that did not make it through. This was really hard. So here's how the judging will work. The judges each have a secret spreadsheet behind the scenes where they will be writing down their scores. They're not going to be sharing their numbers because I don't want them to influence one another. After listening to all the tracks, we will tally up the scores and announce the tracks with the most points. I'll also be mentioning some honorary prizes for the tracks that win the highest score in each specific category, like the best production value. Okay, I think it's time to get to the music. So our first track is a tribute track. And by that, I mean that it's a reference that won't be ranked for the judging. I want the judges to think of it as the kind of the baseline. Imagine that it's like a 5 or 6 on the different categories, so that going forward, that will be what they can reference it to. So after we listen to the track, I'm going to set about a 5-minute timer, and we'll have about that much time to give feedback. So even though this is the tribute, I still want you guys to share your thoughts and let Igor know what you think. Are you guys ready to go?
All set.
All right. Here we go. So this is Castle by the Sea from Igor Cherny.
Woo! Beautiful.
Very nice.
So being the tribute is a tough place to be, because that's a fantastic track. So thank you for the sacrifice. But the idea there is that going first is kind of an unfair position. So now we've set the tone a little bit for what's coming and some of the things. What do you think? Gavin, you popped on first. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just my thought throughout the entire thing was like, wow, this is the baseline. Like, this is what we're starting from. That was excellent. I my favorite part of it was the harp work and the harp arpeggios. They really kind of outlined things really nicely for me. So that stood out to me.
Yeah. So what stuck out to me was right near the beginning of the track. They had this kind of motion in the scale going, like it was in minor, so like flat 6 and then to sharp 4. And this is a common scale. It's like Hungarian minor, and it's used a lot for emotions about mysterious kinds of settings. And I thought this was really appropriate given the kind of image they're supposed to score. So some Hungarian minor, nice touch there. I like the kind of the oompa chords getting near the middle and end of the track, and a really low, deep bass, and then contrasting with these nice string chords on top. Just it had this nice kind of very serious tone to it in that portion of it.
I could also say the orchestration was also super interesting as well. Like throughout, he kind of experimented with those, different colors. Like Gavin mentioned, the harps, and there was also some really interesting string writing there. One thing about like the mic positions, and that this is always something that we always consider when we're working on arrangements, is how do we want to place our instruments in the concert hall, right? Because there were some moments where it feels like the instruments are maybe a bit further back, so there's a little more reverberance on it. But at certain moments when it's a little more intimate, like the harp or maybe the guitar, if there was any, those seemed even closer and maybe panned a little bit more extreme. So it's kind of a decision back and forth. Like, are you trying to put the listener in a different listening space, right? Or are you trying to keep it cohesive throughout the entire thing? So that's kind of a decision we just have to make for ourselves as virtual orchestrators, but certainly interesting choices in this one for sure.
Yeah, I noticed some stereo effects that seemed like they would only really work if you're wearing good headphones.
Right.
Kind of feeling that whole. So from a production standpoint, it's more of a produced track than sitting in the concert hall kind of thing, I think.
Right. It's
Yeah,
sort of this
so-
larger than life thing where you're in the concert hall, and as Christopher was saying, like you zoom in and you're all of a sudden right by the harp when you're playing.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty
Right.
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so something we'll see is that people have very different interpretations of the photo, which is something that part of the reason I chose this one is just that there were a lot of different ways to take it. Some people saw it as very calming, and some people saw it as very ominous and threatening. So yeah, this one did, with that scale, did kind of give it that twist of a darker, something a little darker underneath, I think.
And I have to point out, I love that Mark pointed out that Hungarian minor scale. Like I don't know what that is, but it's good to me. So, and I just love that.
I should have said.
No.
I should have said.
And the fact that he had this really nice like B7. I think he had the dominant seventh in there. Then going straight to the 1 chord. That was just a really nice like descent back to normalcy for a second, and then he had the path to go wherever he wanted after that. But just a bit of everything there.
I think something else that was actually really effective about this one is that it kind of told a complete story.
Yeah.
Yes.
It went a little over time, and I think it might be the only one. I can't remember, that may be part of why it ended up as a tribute, but it went a little over time, and so maybe he had that advantage. But there was some build, and then there was enough time for an actual ending too. I thought it was nice. All right, are we ready to move on to the next one?
Do it.
All right. Switch our ticker over here. So next we have Saint-Michel from Charles Valentine. So yeah, you guys need to actually pay attention and start making some scores this time.
Lovely.
Yes.
That was beautiful.
Agreed.
Sorry, Ryan, I think you're muted.
I was, so you wouldn't hear me all clicking and typing over here. I felt like that was a very different take, and that was part of why I made sure this one came next, so we could see that there was going to be some different approaches here.
Yeah, in a beautiful way, though. It still works really well. Like when you look at the picture and then you think about the context, right? It has a very singular mood, actually, with that guitar leading the way. I personally thought maybe it was a tad loud compared to everything else. Like I understand it's the lead instrument, but maybe just 1 or 2 dB down would let it sing nicely with all the other instruments, which were very nicely produced, by the way. Just really enjoyed the general, D minor sound there.
Yeah, I would be curious if the whoever made that song, whether they're into a band called Opeth, because it sounds to me like some of the acoustic stuff. So this is like a Swedish progressive metal band, but back in the day they made songs like Face of Melinda that sounded like that. So it reminded me of that, which is good. It's one of my favorite bands.
So something I really loved about this one was the use of the bass line. It had this nice chromatic descent from your scale degree 1 all the way down to the dominant 5. And traditionally, this is typically used for, it's called a lament bass, because it's a typical symbol of sadness, or particularly death, grief over death, things like this. So I thought it was very appropriate. I mean, that's an interpretation of that image that's quite sad or grief-stricken. So I thought that was an appropriate thing. And he went further than that. It wasn't just this nice chromatic lick down. He sort of played with that and made it sort of diatonic. So he wouldn't just, go down the chromatic scale. He'd go down just the plain minor scale, 1 flat 7, flat 6, not reach that 5, not reach the dominant. It's like, well, I'll hold us in suspense there. And speaking of suspense, ending on a sus chord at the end, beautiful effect. Just to leave it like a question, So I really like that aspect of it.
I felt like every time we got to that 3-2-1 at the end of the bass line, it was just really satisfying. It was like very full-bodied feeling. It was just like a really nice landing.
Yeah, it proves that you don't need to go 5-1 all the time, right?
Just
settle down one step at a time. Yeah.
Can I just say it's also so validating to hang out with other folks who hear Roman numerals when they listen to music. Never been in a room with 4 of us before.
Classical height.
That's good. That's good. Let's see. I know it's hard. You guys have only heard it one time. I think if you can remember anything else. Any thoughts on relevance? You were talking about the lament. Do Gavin or Chris, do you have any thoughts on how it feels to the prompt?
Anything from you, Chris?
Yeah. I think I mentioned at the top, like just the fact that it's so different. But then when you look back at the picture, it somehow just works together. Like I could almost see this almost being like at the end of a scene or at the end of the film, and the camera's kind of panning out, zooming to the back, and then maybe the credits start to roll. Because it's very calm, and like we talked about, it settles very nicely. So it's not like a super exciting, like bombastic thing. Rather, it's more like the story has just wrapped up and we're starting to get this post-credit type of feeling to it, which is super interesting.
Yeah. I thought it fit the picture well, and that it's just a strong picture for a competition like this, because there are those different interpretations. And as Mark was saying, like running with that ambiguity of the valence of whatever's inside of that castle is really a strong decision here, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of the castle, our next track is called The Haunted Castle.
Let's go.
Chrisna, Lungala. Are we ready to hear number 3? All right. I'm going to mute, and I'll try to remember to unmute this time too. Here we go.
That's it. No. Man, that was something. I really like that. I mean, that title, I wouldn't expect to hear that from the title.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have said like the attacked castle or something. like something super intense. But I don't know. I'll just quickly go first. So I really enjoyed that composition all the way through, and I thought the production was really, really good as well. I think the only thing was just that at the very beginning, I felt the lower strings, the bass elements were a tad overwhelming the top stuff. But in general, it was just really well balanced, and the overall instruments, like it makes you feel like you're watching that film, and the instruments are in the same space. But yeah, in terms of the actual prompt itself, I think that's not. I mean, that was something completely different than what I expected. to say the least.
That's an important point. Just sorry to not be on this track, but that happened a lot actually, where there would be a title that somebody would give it, and it would kind of set my expectations up, as opposed to just kind of contest entry 6 or something, that it was already kind of telling a story before I even heard it. An important consideration.
Yeah, I felt that it was sort of opening up, like the last one felt like it was sort of closing down, as Chris was mentioning, like the end credits sort of thing, and this felt like it was opening up to a larger scene. Like I felt like it was action music at the beginning. I was like, oh, we're gonna get something really forceful and aggressive, and it sort of changed into something more lyrical in the middle. But being a theorist, I need to mention harmony and Roman numerals. It's just my nature. So here we go.
I'm here for it.
So the tritone progression was all over here. So 2 major chords, a tritone apart. I think it was between flat 6 and 2 major in a minor key. So anyway, really cool stuff, because that tends to suggest something kind of otherworldly, which maybe is what they're picking up on in that photo. It's so strange, the photo. It's like this city and mountains, but it's also dark and probably stormy, and so that kind of interpretation, infusing it with energy rather than calming down. The harmony was part of that, and specifically at the beginning we had this minor 1 to major 2 progression. This is a common trope in film music that also suggests something kind of dark. It can be sort of mysterious, dark humor. You hear it in the Elfman Batman stuff, or Horner's Jumanji. There are lots of examples of that kind of progression in film. So I thought it was nicely linking into a lot of other streams that are through film music.
It sounded like Chris was disappointed with the end. There,
I didn't expect it to end like that. I wanted either a 1 chord or maybe ending on a 6 or something, or even on the major 2 could have been interesting. Like just the F sharp and then just I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, you have to respect the time limits, and sometimes you can't always be as big as you want, and you have to still make it work, still make it feel like an ending if it is an ending, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, I liked how the last chord was extended in kind of a Lydian way, because I'm a sucker for that. I always try to do that, sometimes to a fault, actually. So someone in the comments, Dan Wayne, was saying 90s Batman, anyone? And I heard that. I think that makes sense. Maybe this is Bruce Wayne's summer home. And I also just enjoyed just the sheer amount of melodic content in here. That maybe that's part of what kind of evoked, films from the 90s, because it kind of was like that, right? So many melodic bits to kind of to grab onto.
All right. You guys ready? Move on?
Do it, yeah.
Good.
All right. Next, we have The Illusion of an Ending from Chord Terminal. But again, these titles can kind of set you up, can't they? Here we go. The illusion of an ending.
Dang.
Another very different interpretation, I think. All right, I'll give you guys a second to get your thoughts down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the fact that I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was natural minor all the way through, and we got that, that flat 6. I think they went also to the 7 before going to the 1, if I'm not mistaken. So just shows the power of overall simplicity. Sometimes, like, we just don't need to overcomplicate things. And same idea with the orchestration. I think just having that lead instrument up there, and I think very similar to the second one we heard with the guitar leading the way. This is kind of that same idea with just having that one main element taking the approach of the melody, even though it's not really a melody, it's more like an ostinato, but just kind of gives the foundation for everything else in a way.
Yeah, so there was a lot of that, the ostinato throughout, which I'm not criticizing. It's just I think there could have been more done to shape it with some other materials, because there's a lot of tonic chord throughout. You mentioned the flat 7. There's flat 6, flat 7, then it sort of faded away from that. It would be nice to sort of add to that, maybe just another chord. Like there was little hints of a major 4 in there, just with the upper notes of the melody. Be nice to hear some developments on that. But overall, it had this, again, a different quality than the other entries so far, which sounded to me like, if I put a word on it, maybe rumination, sort of trying to come to some kind of important decision and trying to figure out the right pathway forward. It was sort of this, that's the word I would describe it with. Whereas, the last one was very bombastic, and, there are other ones that were more lamentful and things like that. So it's good to see these different interpretations for this one image.
One of the things I really like is the, just from a production standpoint, is these little things I kind of call ear candy, that like a couple little pizzicato plucks that don't serve any kind of functional role, but they just kind of add to the texture. I thought there were a lot of nice little textural elements going on there. Sure.
Yeah, I thought so too. There's good textures here. I think toward Mark's comment about it being more ruminating, I think it would really depend on the goals of the cue in a little bit more in a little more detail. For me, I could have used more melody than for me listening to that. The whole thing felt like an intro, and I'm waiting for the real it's something bigger at the end, which could be a thing to think about.
I felt like it was warming up, but then never made it.
Yeah. I was waiting for something, and again, it depends on the goals of the cue. If you're wanting to keep that, basically, if you're wanting to resolve the tension or not, right? Mm-hmm. My other thing that I thought could be a cool thing to play with is sort of this sort of like 3 against 2 thing that's being implied, like having like you could have one of your figures playing with that if you wanted.
Cool. All right. Ready for the next one?
All set.
All right. Number 5, we have Cyna Mist from Angelo Spinoulas, I think. Let's share it. This was one that was called, I think, RL Entry, but at the last minute, they said, I have a different title. So we have this now. All right. Here we go. There we go. Cyna Mist.
That's beautiful as well. They're all so good, Ryan. You made great choices.
Yes.
There's so many good tracks. It's really hard.
So if I can jump in, I was really drawn to the melody in this one, and it's funny, like it made me forget about listening to the harmony. It was so beautiful, with that introduction, and I'm going to say it, the solo violin really pulled me in. Wonderful choice there for the scoring, because it had so many different changes of the instrumentation and the melody. So it was drawing my interest there. And then I suddenly had to remember, like, oh, Roman numerals. Oh, no.
We're not judging people on their Roman numerals.
No.
That's right.
Of course not.
Yes.
Next time they can just submit those instead.
Just the
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Your music.
Right. Yeah, the violin, it was really nice how that was saved. And then it became really a special moment when it came in, like, 2/3, 3/4 of the way in, then it was like, whoa, that's really fresh.
Right.
Which made it really effective, I thought, for sure.
Right. Like first stating it on the woodwinds in this very downplayed, understated way, I think was very strong.
Yeah, just like having the orchestral bed underneath, kind of warms up the overall production for the melody, like leaving space, and it just like that, it fills up that stereo field so well. And something that's super interesting is how the production interplays with the actual composition itself. Like sometimes when you're kind of going to a 5 chord, you're about to resolve to the 1. In some moments, you maybe want to swell into it, right, to increase that intensity. And I thought, this person did that really well. So they kind of understood theoretically what they wanted to do, but also orchestration wise, they did the modulation in a way that also made it sound more realistic. Like the performers actually wanted to go towards that resolution.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had one. It's not quite a Roman numerals comment, but it has to do with harmonic rhythm, which for anyone who doesn't know that term, it's like sort of how frequently the harmony is changing, how many chords there are per bar, and it was very consistently 1 chord per bar. At least the thing that I heard would be that there could be a nice extra drive if just every now and again we had 2 chords in a bar. We had one chord every 2 beats. So anyway, that's just sort of.
So kind of the pacing had a bit of monotony, maybe. There's kind of.
Yeah, like I heard like on bar 4. So it's a thing 2 3 4, thing 2 3 4, thing 2 3 4, da da.
Right.
Brings the phrase back around.
Right.
Mhm.
Even if it's as simple as like minor 5 to major 5 back to 1, right? Like that could possibly work, or
totally
even flat 6 to flat 7 to 1 or something, like we talked about. But
Nice. All right.
Yeah. Well, and he managed to get some modulation in there, as Chris mentioned, sort of going between, I think it was relative major and relative minor. So this nice ambiguity. There was some sort of moments that it was going to get more positive, and they would draw you back into the negativity of the minor. It's just really nice. Again, a different interpretation once again of that photo. So great choice, Ryan.
All right, we're ready for the next one.
Yeah.
Next we have Blue Sea Under Blue Sky from Pietro Milanesi. Here we go.
Damn.
Well, so what jumped out to me was Edward Scissorhands. It really sounded like that. The harmony was going major 1, minor 3, and the melody too, having that same kind of motion up to the 5-1. Ooh, that same sort of lick there. So I'm not saying you're stealing, because great composers steal, right? So it's perfectly fine. But it was nicely developed. It wasn't just static. It moved around to different chords, suggesting slightly different keys as well. So I think this one evoked a strong mood with that, playing with basically those kind of harmonic materials and that little fragment of the melody there. So that's what jumped out to me, and especially with the solo voice being very strong with the melody and saying like, listen to me, and really pulling our ears towards that. So that was mainly what I noticed there.
I wonder if the voice was mixed hotter than it needed to be, because it draws so much attention to itself just naturally, that it's already clearly on top, right?
Right. And I wonder if there was maybe an additional instrument that was also doubled with the voice, maybe just slightly behind it. I can't exactly pick out what it was, but it felt like it was, layered with something else to give it even more like depth and everything like that. But yeah, I would say that, the composition itself is beautiful, and I just appreciate the orchestration as well. But yeah, there's something to be said for keeping the elements relatively consistent in that, not one doesn't suddenly catch our attention much more than the others or something. We want the overall thing to feel cohesive and give us a nice, complete experience, without pulling our attention away from any one thing. So maybe the vocals were a tad loud, but yeah, overall it's really nice.
Yeah, I thought from a production perspective that maybe the reason that the vocals ended up a tad loud was that the mix had a lot of wetness to it. There's a lot of reverb, a lot of tails, and especially, I guess why I mentioned that is that there may have been in the mixing stage like a lot of high mid and high frequency information for the vocals to compete with. So I wonder if a drier mix would do that melody well.
It's hard to say as we're we lost Mark, but
Mark.
as we're listening to these are kind of streaming, out of it's an MP3 streaming, so it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
What's going on, like EQ wise and compression wise and stuff, to know. I might not be hearing what you're hearing, like as we just saw. Here he's back. Here we go.
Totally, and we have a range of headphones we're listening on too.
Right, yeah.
I
think my favorite moment in there was the little run or lick right before the vocal started. There was this like kind of aleatoric, like kind of bendy rush thing. I don't know exactly what to call it, but it was very pleasing. I thought very satisfying. Okay, shall we go to the next one?
Let's do it.
Yes, please.
Next, we have Azure-tinted Memorii from the Beat Wizard. Taking a little bit of a different direction this time. Trying to spice things up. Here we go. Oh, you guys probably can't hear that, can you? We'll try that again.
Correct. Cannot hear.
There we go.
Okay, sorry. I just have to jump in and say this because this reminded me of Mario so much, and I was just like, I have to nerd out over this for a second. But there's like two things I really wanted to say. The first one was I can't deny a nice major 4 minor 4-1, just such a nice minor plagal cadence. And then there was one moment near to the end. He went from or she, sorry, 1 to 6 to 4 to transition to the next phrase. I personally would have loved a 2-5-1 in the F major. Sorry, so the F chord was the start of the new phrase. So G minor C7 to that chord. Just that secondary dominant there. But overall, I really loved it. I think the production was awesome, and yeah, compositionally, just give you some of this nostalgia there.
It's that 4 minor. That's the nostalgia chord.
There it is.
That's right. Yeah, I felt sort of a professorial duty to rate this one well because it uses some harmonic tricks that I teach about. As in, like, the main basis that I heard, at least from the relative major framework, is 4-5-3-6,
Right.
which is like a very common, J-pop and anime chord progression. So, good job, you know that one.
So they wrote for this judge.
I wonder, because there's that, and then there was some use of breakbeats, like old drum and bass breakbeats. I wonder if this person is an artcore producer, because it's a genre that uses both of those things. So I noticed that one.
What do you guys think about relevance? Because it's very different than like the Haunted Castle that we heard a little while ago.
Yeah, it seemed to pick up maybe more on the fantasy vibe. I mean, I know there's a real play, it's a real photo, but it has this fantasy-like quality in the photo. And you mentioned Mario Brother, and I think that's like, yeah, that could do well with that sort of interpretation. You guys mentioned the plagal stuff and the nostalgic chord. It could also mean a sort of romance, like a sort of thrill about delving into fantasy, this kind of thing. It's not just the John Williams love theme chord, It's like there are other sort of interpretations of it. Sometimes it's like a exotic, far off place kind of chord as well. You get that in Stargate, for example, way back when. So there's that to it. It's like, I think harmonically is very appropriate, I think. And Gavin mentioned this 4-5-3-6. I wrote that down too, and I was like, yeah, that's very good. Yeah, no, it was like the 3 chord is this. It has this emotional power to it that we don't hear a lot in classical, more stricter kind of music. But going 5, it was going 5 down to 3 and then up to 6. This beautiful effect. It's hard to put into words, but 3 just has this kind of romance and mystery to it. It's a perfect chord, really. So well done.
Yeah, harmonically appropriate for the style, I think, is a really good way to think about it, because I'm not usually too crazy about, if I notice the chord progression looping, especially in a more like orchestral context, it sticks out, and you're kind of like, you feel like you want more development. But in this more kind of groove-based feel type space, that it can be more harmonically appropriate, that it's more cyclical, I think.
Totally.
A little different. Okay. How about we go to that was number 7, so let's go to number 8. Our best title of the night, Castle Thing, from Wade Smith. There we go.
sick.
What was that?
That was great. That was sick. I love it.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. I might give that one.
Yeah.
Love that you had that ready to go.
Yeah, I know. Waiting for that perfect moment.
Right.
It's one big button.
There you go. Yeah.
I think what I really liked about that, I liked that there was this emotional contour to the piece that had, I think, like a lot of the previous interpretations in one. Like there was parts where it's kind of evil or scary. There's parts where it's wondrous and fantastical. And I really liked that. I feel like that I want to just rate it highly for relevance in that, like, it got all the, not just one aspect of the ambiguity, but multiple.
Just an interesting side thing about that is that it's 15 seconds shorter than the limit. So it would have been very easy to have too many ideas and overflow and be too long, but he managed to actually come in under time. It was an interesting thing, I think. Well.
Yeah, I was expecting just a tad more. I wanted it to continue. It was so good. The chanting and the use of choir, I think, was quite inspired, because something we haven't heard yet in these excerpts in quite that way. The melody had some nice unexpected turns. It started going da 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 da, and you expect that to go back to the tonic da, but it went down. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Like, oh, I like that. Just unexpected and a little twisted. So there's that aspect to it. Harmony was nice and varied. I think I heard the Edward Scissorhands progression again, which was nice. But it was major, it was minor, it was chanting, twisted, like so many good ideas in there. A lot to talk about, a lot to chew on.
Yeah, it just takes you on like this one literally takes you on a journey, because as soon as the beginning started, the first 5-10 seconds, I was not expecting what was about to come, and then it hits and you're like, oh wow, okay, there's a lot of variety in there. And you also can't deny a good parallel key switch there, going from E minor to E major, especially on the last chord. I did not expect it to end on the major, but that's really interesting.
It worked though.
It did.
I think he sold it.
I thought the production was also very strong. I mean, I felt like it felt very live. It felt like I was in the concert hall. There was a choir there. The whole orchestra was there. That felt good.
All right.
And if that's over a live chat, that's saying something.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Totally.
Nice.
Nice job.
Cool.
Okay. Next, we have Foto Master from Pepe Perez.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Another very different interpretation, I think.
Yes. Yeah. It just takes me a moment to sink in with this one. This one reminds me a little bit of the rumination one, but it had a very different quality because there's this, what I might call a haze of dissonance, always there. And the bass line is very clear. So we could always tell like what sort of harmony you suggesting there. But at the same time, it's hard to tell with those upper voices what exactly is going on there. So it made it feel very mysterious. So it wasn't so much a kind of thought process that was just, static. It felt like there was more tension there. So I think there's a little notch lower towards the negative side of the scale there, which is great. Again, very, very different. I can't really say that any of these are the same in terms of the emotional quality that they're evoking, which is amazing.
I thought that having a photo would level the playing field, and they all came from such different places that made it really hard about choosing.
Right. It just made the playing field like 13-dimensional.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was hard. I thought it was kind of, it is a bit of a combination of some of the things we've heard so far, some of the more ambient one and the solo vocal ones, and kind of all these different things coming together.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first one where it basically starts in a certain spot and then it kind of grows to add a couple more elements, and then it kind of goes back to the very beginning where it started. So it doesn't really feel like an ABA or anything. It's just like an A that grows and then kind of goes back down. And then in terms of production, I think it was really beautiful. I especially love that overall piano sound. I think maybe the vocal in the middle could have maybe been spread out a tad more to kind of match, or maybe just like have some more delays, or that reverb that washes it a little bit more, and also turned up slightly in the mix, or maybe turn down the piano on the side slightly when the vocal actually does come in. But overall, just a really consistent mood, and I thought it was pretty relevant to the picture for sure.
Mm-hmm. Am I right in saying this is? It seems like it's the first submission we've had so far that uses an odd time signature. Anyone notice? I didn't figure out exactly what it was, but it sounded like something that was not 4 or 3.
Maybe
hard to not go back, and I don't want to go back if
Yeah.
we haven't done that. If we haven't done that for everyone, then I don't want to go back.
Right.
Of course. But if that is true, that's a creative decision, and it's also telling that it wasn't so obvious that we were all like, oh yeah, so clearly in 5 or whatever. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. It's getting tight. It's getting tough. This is part of the reason that we had the tribute track too, to set the stage, because I knew as things developed and as things went, it was going to change the perceptions of everything we've heard.
Right.
All right. Now we have Why Miss the Past Away from Dmitri Tasoudies. Let's see, where was that one? Over here.
Oh.
Kind of a jazz trio interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very different style.
Definitely.
I think that one shows that you don't need to have the most expensive string and brass libraries to compete. You know, you can still have something very beautiful without having to have those, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking that if that person did that with VSTs, those are great VSTs because it sounds like it sounds like the kernel of it, the core of it is a pianist and a drummer went into a studio together. It sounded very live. So maybe they recorded it themselves, but if they didn't, then like, wow, you fooled me. I also I think there was a nice quality to the melody that had a certain type. It sounded it had a European folk music kind of the articulations and flair to it kind of gave me that kind of feeling, like it could be played on a fiddle or something like that, or even a sea shanty kind of feel.
Yeah, there's some Celtic history to this location that some people have pointed out that came up sometimes in the comments and the submissions too. So that may have been intentional, actually.
Yeah, I could hear like an Irish singer over this.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Dimitri's just said it was all real instruments. So
there he is.
Look at that.
Wow.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Oops. Dmitri.
Well done.
Real. Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think some people in the chat were trying to guess which piano VST that was. Sometimes you can't.
So Demetrius, Spitfire Demetrius.
Right? Exactly. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, sorry.
No, it was great. It just had a very spontaneous feel. You know, Gavin mentioned the sort of jazz trio type of texture there, and so yeah, I was going to say, you know, yeah, it probably goes back to some kind of historical reference to the image. As you say, I don't know if that was intentional. That was I was going to add to that. It's just the spontaneity to it, and the folk-like character really came through that kind of jazz pathway. So yeah, nicely done. It seemed like there were different aspects happening at the same time. Like there's the guitar and piano, and then there was some drumming that seemed to be almost in a different rhythm, a different sort of almost like a different meter. Like I know it's not, but it's probably, I don't think. But it sounded like it was very distinct. Like there were two parts that were competing with one another in a sort of not aggressive way, but just sort of very distinct way. So it's very different, very nice.
Yeah, the drums especially kind of caught me off guard. And then when the piano and the melody kind of came back in, it kind of locks things back into place. So it's just really nice interplay of those instruments there. And overall, it just made the whole thing work. So
I love how mellow that piano tone was.
Yeah.
It really helped it. I wonder if the spontaneity thing, it seems like is a common thread in these kind of more intimate ones where there's these like little textures. Is that, a feature of this style that doesn't work as well in orchestral music, or is that just kind of standing out in these specific examples? Do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll ponder that for the next one. I don't know. Because I feel like these kind of smaller ensemble ones are more successful at having just these little, like I said earlier, the ear candy things of just like a little, like a really textural thing you can almost feel in one ear or someplace else.
And you might be onto something. Like it's hard to tell 40 people, like just feel it, man. You'd have to, as the composer, hear each of those little thingies and then you do that, and then you do that. Versus if it's three of you, that's more doable. I also wanted to point out on the drums, the use of like mallets on the toms and whatnot. Cool. Like that made the interpretation not just sort of a jazz setup, but like jazz ballad, which I thought was very cohesive.
Yeah, that helps the drums match the mellowness of the piano.
Yeah.
As well, I think. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Ryan loves his ear candy, Wade says.
I do. I do. All right. Next, we have Spire in the Distance from Shane Rutherfoord-Jones.
I like that a lot. That was nice.
What was the? I know you guys probably know it. What was the predominant chord that they was using? You know what I'm talking about? That's a real question, not a quiz.
Oh, yeah. Which point?
Yeah, which point? Forgot now.
Say the last cadence. There seemed to be like some fancy a non-standard predominant chord used.
Didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, I would.
It's all good.
We'll have to go back to that.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of it. The predominant.
Roman numerals club.
Yeah. We'll start a club after. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one, Gavin mentioned meters before and time signatures. This one was a nice 3/4 waltz feel.
Yes.
It sort of lightened things up, made it feel not humorous, just sort of like a lighter character, which I very much enjoyed. And at the end, we got that pump up modulation to the a semitone higher.
Okay.
It's just lovely effect and swell into it. Chris mentioned the swelling resolutions of dominant seventh. It's just beautifully done. So I had a lot of effects in there that I sort of just instinctively recognize. I don't have to really think about it all. It's just like, oh yeah, I feel that. I know what you're getting at. So I really enjoyed it for that reason.
Ryan, I'm seeing that the composer Shane said that they use the French sixth and the Neapolitan sixth.
Aha.
So there you go.
Yeah.
French sixth, Neapolitan. Okay.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Great. Also love how the melody was nicely kind of distributed between the different sections. It never stayed static in one section all the time. So even though the orchestration was relatively consistent, I believe everything was kind of supporting the melody in a really beautiful way, allowing it to change, in different instruments. Yeah, exactly. Nice dovetailing, right? So, yeah, nice distributions there. Nice to have a waltz for sure.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering about the relevance of that in relation to the photo. What do you guys think of that? So I'm asking you guys.
Yeah.
What do we think of that? Yeah, I mean definitely inspires more of that playfulness and sense of it's sort of mysterious from like a Disney mysterious.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's about to zoom in and like you see two characters dancing or something, right? Something's about to happen.
I thought this one managed to tell a long story or kind of fit a lot in that I felt like we'd been through several phases already, and then we had just hit the 60-second mark. I was kind of like, wow, there's been a lot of activity.
Yeah.
A lot to it, which was very nice.
Yeah, Ryan and I we talk about theme types all the time. It's these 8-bar themes. I felt like there was a lot of structure in there. I'd like to go back and pick them out, and see how they're put
Analyze
together.
the structure. Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I think it was solid. Chris was mentioning it's a solid melody. I think that's maybe part of the reason why.
Nice.
We can save that for the 24-hour stream.
Right. Yeah, I know. We'll go fully analyze each one of these.
Yeah.
Well, the next one we have is a bit different as well. The Mystery of Misttree Island from Epic Toast. Here we go.
Wow.
Well, that was different.
That was very different.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, so cool. Like more of a chiptune
Yeah.
interpretation.
And really cool harmony to go along with it. Absolutely. This is like a flat 2/7 or something, 2 dominant 7. Going back to the 1, like that's not something you hear every day.
Yes, I love that too. I was going to point that out. I called it a spooky augmented sixth on flat 2. It's just sort of this, it's almost like a tritone sub or something like that. But it creates this nice, like I say, sort of a spooky character. But the whole thing was so kind of bizarre as well, and to the whole sound and the texture. And so it gave it this almost levity. So it was almost like spooky, but in a sort of funny way,
Right.
If you know what I mean. It's kind of hard to describe.
Totally.
I'd love to see a version of the prompt art that's pixel art. Like that's what they responded to. Right.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Even some like Pokemon remix vibes or something. I don't know.
Right.
I was reminded of a. Have you all played a game called Fez? There's 2 games that that guy Disaster Piece did, and it sounded really similar. Especially Fez has a similar kind of palette to this, and it's all done using massive, just one digital synthesizer. So anyway, I wonder if that's a reference for this person. Yeah. But yeah, video game spooky, I think, is definitely the vibe.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. I want to give you guys a second to make sure you're caught up on the scoring sheet over here. My favorite moment, I think, was that the bend that go in kind of opposite directions, the one bending up, the other going down. It's just such a smooth sound. I loved that. That was the moment I was like, "Ooh, yeah, this one is nice." The ear candy again,
right?
I guess, but it definitely worked for me.
And there was a nice melodic ornament. The
yeah.
I like that. Sort of a soulful little sprinkle.
Okay.
All right.
Are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
I think so.
Let's go.
think we're going at a good pace here. Next, we have the Citadel from Jacob de Graaf. Pull it up, and here we go.
Yeah, that violin is the star of the show for sure. I wonder if it was live. If it was,
It was, yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah.
It was live. Wow.
I was like, I'm not detecting samples right now.
Right. I want that library.
Yeah.
Samples not found.
That's right.
Yeah. I liked there was a strong moment where it sounded like there was like a bass synth and organ going on at the same time, and I thought that was very dramatic. It was really nice.
Yeah, I really liked when the organ came in. Thought it was a nice new color. I didn't hear the synth part of it, but it was just kind of hearing that blended with the whole organ, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah, it might have
soundscape.
just been low range organ. You're right.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd jump on that and say I think it added to it with the there was a lot of flat six in here, the minor six chord in here, which adds a sort of weight to everything, and it sort of wavered between going down to the actual major five chord or up to the flat seven, and so it had this kind of gravity to it. We're not sure whether it's going to go sink down to five or kind of pull itself up in a kind of this ultra serious kind of way up to flat seven and then up to one. And the organ certainly helped that as well, that kind of the instrumentation of it. So yeah, and the solo violin, I totally agree, was just great in this in terms of production. It's wonderful.
Nice.
Just
Okay.
the points of orchestration.
Yeah.
Don't let other things compete with your main melody.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next we have Find and Leave from Joanna Borowska. Find that one. Okay, here we go.
Nicely done.
Very
So it left us hanging with that ending, right? We've had that one or two times, which I think is a nice cliffhanger effect. It just leaves you with that inhale. You're just waiting to exhale. Or where is that moment? This one all about motivic development in the melody. That da 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 da. 1-5-4 kind of. Sorry, 1-4-3 kind of melody there. And this one had a nice meter to it as well. It was some kind of triple time, either 3-4, maybe a slow 6-8. Somewhere in the middle, it got a little hard to tell what the meter was. It's like I was trying to find my beat. My foot was like, where's the next one now? Right?
Was that intentional to put you off, or it was too crowded? Like, in which way, I guess?
Oh, so did I like that?
Right, I guess, right.
Yeah, no, I think that, I think it worked because it seemed to be like it's starting off with a solid idea, and then it kind of got crazy, and then started to bring us back, and then leave us with the cliffhanger. So it had a nice kind of structure to it. And was that the full 90 seconds there?
Yeah, and I wonder if the cliffhanger was just a consequence of the time limit.
All of that, maybe.
Maybe if they could have kept going, there'd be another minute of material. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well disguised if that was the case.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I also found myself like halfway through trying to figure out what the time signature was. But if I wasn't thinking about it, like the overall thing just swept me away. Like I wasn't consciously dissecting anything. I was just enjoying the music throughout. So there was always something to kind of maintain the interest. And, like Mark was saying, there's this interest in the melody that develops, and it just continues to give you something new every few seconds, every few bars. So I just really appreciated the variety overall in this piece. Really enjoyed it.
Sorry, it was 1-5-4. I said 1-4. Yeah. I like to be precise about these things.
Of course.
On the record.
Very nice.
Come on, Mark.
On the record, yeah. Yeah. But we can edit it later.
Yeah.
You know what he said?
Yeah.
I think my favorite of the many different ways that melody was stated, I liked that there was one that was split up between one high woodwind and bassoon.
Yeah.
That was a cool, because I think at each point the motif was, it wasn't split in half like that until then. So that was a cool decision.
I think this is a really strong example of sticking to one consistent idea. You can still do so much with it, that motivic things, that it doesn't have to it's not just looping, it's going a lot of interesting places, even though we can follow it. That was really nice. Okay. Are we ready for the next one?
I think so.
There's two left.
All right.
Next we have Voyage dans le temps, if you will, from Julien Mairat. All right. Here we go.
Wow. Whew. So, yeah,
Let's start.
Alex was saying, love the dissonance. Yeah, I think that just instantly reminded me of what Mark you were saying earlier with that that I forgot the term you were saying, something dissonance, right? And just overall, it was never just a straight triad. Like there were always sevenths in there, other suspensions or extensions in there just to thicken it up further. And then, that build into the final section was just super satisfying. And I really appreciate how it just kind of died away at the end as well to bring us back again to the beginning. So yeah, all of these pieces just feel so short, because we want to hear more.
Yeah, that's where I always felt too. This one felt a little under time, was it? Or was it not? 90 seconds or no?
Let me check that. I think it might have been. It was 109. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was maybe the shortest one.
Okay. So I think it could have used more development there, because it had a lot of ideas. Like it had this build up. It had this like an intro, and then it built up like it was gonna really punch us. And we got some of that. And then, as Chris was saying, it sort of died away. And I think maybe it could have been more developed in that middle portion, so that when we get that dying away effect, we're not left sort of like, oh no, it's ending now. I want it to go on, But it was very nice handling of the dissonance, as Chris was saying, and it had this interplay between just a simple major and minor tonic chord. So there's this ambiguity, and I think we mentioned something about the ambiguity of the photo in the history, or maybe this was just beforehand. We were talking about ourselves, but there is this sort of moral ambiguity to the history of this place. Sometimes it was a prison. I think it's one of the things it was used for, as well as being a monastery. So it could have different kinds of uses, and I think that sort of just, in a very film music kind of way, did that very quickly and efficiently, to sort of like major, minor, is it positive, negative, not really sure. So some nice, simple and effective use of harmony there.
Yeah, I feel like I want to take that one to the piano and figure out what the voicings were.
Yeah.
Really strong.
Yeah, that's the analysis live stream.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah. Definitely. Nice cluster stuff happening.
Totally. You will not believe this voicing.
That's right.
Okay, give you a second there.
And that's by the way, that's the beauty of like ensemble patches and sample libraries, right? Like you can literally try these things out and not worry about paying musicians every single minute for doing these things. And yeah, just having this technology is such a cool thing nowadays. But...
All right, we have one more. Sorry, unless you guys
last
have
one.
thoughts on that, but
no.
Last one is the Saint-Michel Curse from Vincent Lesur. Here we go.
Nice.
This is a very fitting one to end off on.
Yeah. So the use of water sounds came up, I don't want to say a lot, but maybe a dozen times or so that people were using waves. I feel like this is the only one I recall that used them as percussion, like actually used the water sounds as an instrument and not just as an ambience, which was a unique touch for sure.
I thought so too. The sort of the thing that broke the veil for me a little bit from like a Foley or sound effects perspective was that those droplets didn't feel like they were coming from that river. They felt like very sort of close or like a very small bit of water. So I wonder if it would have helped to have different splash sounds.
Right. I also thought it was interesting how the splashes were ping-ponging left and right.
Yeah.
Nice stereo imaging there. So I've never heard something like that before. I don't know if that was I don't know, something they put a lot of thought into or not. But yeah, overall the arrangement was probably the most quirky, I would say, in a good way. Because it worked in the end, absolutely. I mean, you could always nitpick and say like, you know, that string run near the end maybe was a tad close compared to the other instruments, etc. But like overall, I think the feeling and the intensity they were going for certainly came across.
Yeah, it certainly had a lot of Danny Elfman vibes in the harmony. These weird root motions, kind of minor-like, and then the waltz tempo, the 3/4, and the oompa kind of accompaniment. It felt very kind of maybe grotesque is the sort of word. It's sort of something sort of zany and very strange and kind of spooky a little bit about it. So I mean, I was trying to sketch out the harmonies, but then I just stopped. I was like, you know, these are just strange root motions. I'm going to miss too many other things. So it's well incorporated into the design of the piece, just to kind of be really unpredictable with those chord changes. And the accordion added this French feel. I'm guessing that was deliberate with given the history of the photo or where it is. Right, it's in France, right? So it's
right,
yeah.
It sort of felt like we were outside the concert hall with the street musicians playing the piece, and then we came in and there's all craziness, and then you come back out and it's just them.
And they're playing in the puddles for some reason.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
I'll give you guys a minute to get your last scores, and then if you can talk amongst yourselves while I go over everything and see what the ranking is, and then we will announce the final results.
Oh, nice.
It was just amazing, like the overall variety, right? Just to see how, I mean, we know this objectively, but just the way people interpret that same thing so many different ways, so many structures, so many themes, just very satisfying.
Yeah, I think it was I think that speaks to the strength of the prompt, right? That it just allowed for such a range of stuff. It might have been pretty I think a video clip where or any like much more specific instruction might have constrained that range more. Just been less interesting.
For sure.
Okay, I think I've got it. You
got
guys
it?
are set? Good. So let me review.
I can get ready.
The prizes. First place gets the liminal bundle from Loot Audio, access to one of Christopher's courses, which he can tell you more about, and the Alpha and Omega VST synthesizers from Bliss. Second place gets the Classic FX bundle from Bliss, and all three get the 3-month full license to musicant.app and are invited to the Coffee with the Composers event. So first, the honorable mentions, just in the categories. The highest ranking for...
Oh
no, too early. In the composition category, there was a tie between The Haunted Castle with Chrisna, Lungala, and Find and Leave from Joanna Borowska. So congratulations on that. On the relevance category, there was a tie with Blue Sea Under Blue Sky with Pietro Milanesi and Castle Thing from Wade Smith. And then the winner for production was also Castle Thing from Wade Smith. And now for the results, in third place, there is a tie, which is perfectly acceptable, especially for third. That's easier to talk to the sponsors about. The tie for third was between the Citadel from Jacob de Graaf and Find and Leave from Joanna Borowska. In second place was Spire in the Distance from Shane Rutherfoord-Jones. And in first place is Castle Thing from Wade Smith.
Congrats!
Congratulations, Wade.
Hey.
Congratulations to all of you, Wade, Shane, Jacob, and Joanna.
Congrats, guys.
And I think to end it, why don't we listen to Wade's track one more time?
Sure.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for joining me for this. I really appreciate it. It's awesome to have you involved.
Thanks for having me.
Any closing remarks before we hear Wade's track?
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, everyone should just keep on composing.
On composing.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing that up. I am planning on revisiting this, doing another one, probably over July will be the composing period. So if you're watching this, you want to take another go at it, look for kind of end of June, an announcement on the next prompt. I think we'll probably do a photo prompt again. Someday in the future, I kind of have this vision that maybe it'll be like a string quartet competition and we'll get like a live string quartet and play them back. But
Cool.
it's ambitious and I'm not quite there yet. But, so for the next one, it will probably be another, like, here's the photo, do the same kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Perfect.
So look for that. And also I'm going to send out a feedback form to everybody. Just kind of get your thoughts. What do you think? And what would you like to see in future competitions? So after this stream, I'll put that in the description of the video. And I may email that out to everybody. I don't know. It feels a little spammy. I'll think about it. But at least if you're watching this, check in a little while in the description. There will be a form. You can add some feedback. So thanks again, guys. All right, so let's listen to Wade's track.
Yes.
And then we will say goodbye. I'm going to hide everybody else as well. All right. So long, everybody.